supply chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Good morning, everybody, and happy Tuesday, and welcome to the first week, I think, back to work for many of you. My name is Sarah Barnes Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the founder and host of the Blended podcast, and the founder of the Blended Pledge, which we're going to be talking about today. And I am super excited to be here with you. I've got Jeff from RELEX here in the hot seat as our guest today. And we're going to be talking all about trends. Now, these are trends that has to do with consumer behavior and retail, but they are super, super important for supply chain professionals. So stay tuned because this is going to be a robust discussion. Now, we've got a lot to get to because we've got a lot going on to kickstart 2024. But before we do that, let's hear from our show sponsors. So are you ready to find your tribe? If you are struggling to find a supply chain community of like-minded professionals where you can level up, network, learn about best practices from experts in supply chain, professional development, and marketing, look no further. We created the Secret Society of Supply Chain to provide a safe space, a community for everyone in supply chain. We offer unique opportunities for everyone to connect and grow in 3 distinct value-packed communities: the supply chainers, women in supply chain, and the creative room. From the learn at your own pace, content-rich approach of the supply chainers to the empowering community-focused space of women in supply chain and the marketing mastermind of the creative room, we mean it when we say there's truly a place for everyone. So head over to secretsocietyofsupplychain.com to explore which community was made for you. All right. So our brand new episode for this week is our Woman in Supply Chain episode. It is episode 384. And the title is Show Me the Money, Why Women Need to Stop Working for Free. Now, I am super excited about this one. This is a topic that I have been passionate about forever. We've got Joanne Dizzy, Katie Date, and Marina Mayer all on this episode to talk about why we need to stop working for free. So go and check that out wherever you listen to the episode. It is you listen to the podcast. It's episode 384. All right, next, you guys have heard me talk about the Blended Pledge. Well, we are open for applications. So if you're a diverse voice that has a speaking opportunity at an event, please head over to blendedpledge.org and apply for our grant. So our grant covers travel expenses so that diverse voices can say yes to speaking engagements. So head over there, learn more, and make sure to apply. Plus, I've got a webinar coming up with BlackBerry Radar, Shannon Hamilton. We've also got Matthew Leffler on that as a guest, talking about transportation asset management beyond GPS and how you can get a fast ROI from those asset trackers. So go ahead and register. We've got the link in the comments, January 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern, and I look forward to seeing you there. Plus, if anybody's going to Manifest in February, I've got 2 tickets to Adele that I am selling, so you can DM me in LinkedIn and let me know if you're interested in going. Plus, I've got a new monthly hustle with it, which is my LinkedIn newsletter called Show Us the Money. And we actually extend on our brand new podcast episode. So go and check that out. We're getting a lot of great feedback from this. And the article is in the links in the comments. What else have we got? Oh, the team worked really hard on this one. And we put this out, I think it was last week, the top 3 engineering and supply chain professionals that will be in high demand in 2024. So go and check that out. We've got the link in the comments for you. And hopefully that'll help you in 2024. All right. I think it is now time, without further ado, to bring up our guest for today. It's Jeff. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good morning, Sarah. I'm fine. How are you? Did you have a good holiday?
I did finally get some rest. We went to Florida for a couple of weeks. It was a little bit colder than I had hoped for, but I definitely got some rest and super excited to be back here talking to you and talking to everybody in the audience. So why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
My name's Jeff Bulger. I work at RELEX Solutions. I am a field solution principal and have been in and around pricing for, well, let's say longer than a decade and just leave it at that.
You don't want to tell everybody how long you've been in the industry?
First, the earth cooled, and then I joined,
So, what did you say that your title is?
I am a field solution principal. More or less, what that means is that I help uh, prospects find their way to the right solutions for them.
Ooh, I love that title. I love that title. That's why I had to ask what it actually meant, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. But now that you've explained it, I kind of want a title like that. Listen, I want to say hi to Mohammed over on my personal LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us. All right, let's get into our poll of the week. So we ask everybody a question every single Wednesday morning across the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn and Instagram. And the question that we asked everybody last week was, jumping back into work mode makes me feel like ... So we had almost 300 votes to this. 33% of you said, when is the next holiday? 29% of you said, coffee, please. And I can show you, I've got my coffee ready for Thoughts and Coffee. 24% of you said, rediscovering my work groove. I love that. And 15% of you said, juggling tasks like a pro. Jeff, when you saw this poll, what did you think?
Gotta admit, I lean towards coffee. But I think it's more juggling tasks. It was getting back in the groove, reprioritizing, trying
Yeah.
to remember what worked, right?
Yeah.
It took me almost an entire day to get back to where I was.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of worked throughout the holidays because I didn't want to come back to that whole like 1,000 email in the inbox type thing. I think I still had about 77 that I had to run through. But I have been getting a mix of thoughts about this, right? I've got some people like this poll who are like, when is the next holiday? What is the next day off? And some people who are like, no, 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 I'm back. Just give me my coffee. I'm ready to go.
I was definitely ready to get back into the groove though.
Me
It
too.
was
I
time.
have I have to say, when I did Thoughts and Coffee last Tuesday, because I took a hiatus for about a week, I was energized. I was like, let
Yeah.
2024, let's do this. All right. Well, before we get into our articles, why don't you give everybody a bit of a market update? What are some of the things that you are hearing from the market? What are people thinking about 2024?
2024, the last 5 years have been a really interesting time in retail. Everything from COVID to inflation to everything
Mhm.
else. I think we're still trying to find out what the new normal is. Um, and unfortunately, we're going to talk about this in a little bit in more detail when we start talking about some of the articles. But there's been a major disconnect between consumer loyalty and retailers right
Mhm.
now. Part of that's not justified. The inflation means prices have had to go up. And so consumers see that as a betrayal of their trust. You're raising
Mhm.
prices on me. You're just after money, you're just after profit, but not truly realizing that retailers had to do that to keep the lights on, keep their people paid,
Mhm.
and to keep providing the services to the community that they're doing.
Yeah.
It's I think it's going to be the reestablishment of that trust is going to be the guide for 2024.
Mhm.
It'll
Yeah, and
happen.
I think we saw a lot of layoffs too, right, in 2023, and
We
that
did.
definitely doesn't help with that trust. And I think what we're gonna see while we get into some of these topics that we're gonna talk about today is that some of those cuts were in customer experience and customer service, customer experience. We know as supply chain professionals in collaborating with marketing and customer experience, customer service,
Sure.
that feedback is really, really critical to not only supply chain to be able to run that through and make sure that we're doing what we need to do to get that product to the end consumer, but that experience, that customer service is really important to retain that customer to keep those lights on as well.
Absolutely. And when you add in the labor struggles that everybody's experiencing and keeping good, strong employees, yeah, it becomes a challenge. But I think we're going to turn the bend on that in 2024.
Yeah, I hope we are. One of the things that I wanted to mention before we get into the articles is last week I had some of your colleagues on the show. We actually recorded this in studio in Atlanta. That's why we got some fancy chairs happening over there. But we really dove more into detail as to what RELEX is all about and what you guys do. And so if you have not gone to listen to that episode, head over to either the Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube, or we're going to put the link in the comments as well for you, so you can go and listen and hear what everybody had to say. Kate was talking about her woman in supply chain journey, and then we also were talking about what exactly you do at RELEX. So if you want to find out more about them, head over to listen and watch that particular episode. I really enjoyed talking to them and learning more about RELEX. I don't know if everybody knows this, but I was the MC of your RELEX Live right after, like, we were kind of still in COVID, but not really in COVID. I think it was 2021. And I did it from your London offices. And I have to tell you, I'm so glad that we're working together, because that experience was great. You guys really have an awesome team over at RELEX.
A lot of really smart but really fun people have gotten together to go on a journey together, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I love that. All right, let's get into our first article. So the article, I found this one on Forbes, and I wanted to talk about this because this is talking about what's in store for retail. We've already kind of discussed a little bit of one of the points that they talk about in this article, and how retailers can prepare. And the reason why I chose this one is because what is affecting retailers, and obviously how consumer habits are changing, is also going to affect supply chain professionals, supply chain leaders, supply chain teams, and how you're going to look at supply chains in 2024. So we're taking a little bit of a different angle, but it's all very relevant to what we're doing and how we're thinking about things on a daily basis. So for this particular article, they talk about how shopping habits are changing. And you just mentioned that, Jeff. They talk about how authenticity is critical. Now, one of the biggest things that came up, I think, in 2023 was obviously AI. Everybody's talking about AI. You know, how do we implement it? How do we use it? How do we use it more? A lot of people got into the chat GPT and, came up with, articles, content, even forms, information for forms and different things like that using chat GPT. And I think we saw a little bit of a divide on AI, right? Some people really, really like it and see what it can do for us and how it can help us. And some people are like, oh my goodness, this is scary as all heck.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, we're all a little bit worried that, the computer overlords are just around the corner, right?
Right.
But ChatGPT is a tool like anything else, and when properly used, it can be a very good tool.
Mhm.
But you're right; it takes away a little bit of that personal, the personal touch, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's what they're talking about in this article, because what they're saying is that AI needs to be a complement to the human voice. And this is a discussion that we've been having
Exactly
in
right.
supply chain, is how can technology, machine learning, AI enhance what the humans are doing in supply chain? And they're also talking about this in retail. That's why there's so many ways that this particular article really does shed light into not only retailers, but supply chain as well. What else did you think about this article?
I thought it was great. We all try and polish up our crystal ball at the beginning of the year and try and figure out what's going to happen so we can
We
be prepped for
totally
it,
do.
right? But I will say this: what it kept occurring to me as I read the article is that no part of an organization can live in a silo anymore. There has to be communication across them, whether it's digital communications using ChatGPT or just good old fashioned person to person communication. Things like marketing, pricing,
Mhm.
where I'm based, supply chain, they have to link together. They have to talk to each other, and they have to be a unified approach.
Mhm.
In a silo anymore, right?
Mhm.
It all has to link together.
Absolutely. And I think you've frozen on me, but we can still hear you. So we're going to keep going. Oh, there you are. You're back. All right.
Oh,
One of the other things that they talked about was social commerce, which I thought was interesting, not only from a retail perspective, but also a supply chain perspective, is that brands, so consumers want to purchase through social. They don't want to have to go from social to your website and then try to find the product and then have to pay for it and things like that. And this is actually, they're talking about how critical it is to integrate this into the core business functions. And that would mean that it would be definitely something to consider from a customer experience standpoint, from a pricing standpoint, right? From a retailer standpoint and supply chain. What did you think about that component?
oh, I think it's strong. I mean, the
Mhm,
one of the very few silver linings in the COVID dark cloud was that all retailers, including ones that were traditionally hesitant to join the digital revolution, had to. Folks like groceries, C stores, had to get on board with digital,
mhm,
and it's not going to go away.
mhm,
It needs to become part of the DNA,
mhm.
and social is part of that. You know, you have to have the social presence to make that whole process work.
Yeah. Well, and like everybody's on social media and I know that I've seen something that I wanted to learn more about, but then it goes to the website and sometimes it goes to the homepage of the website and then you've lost the product and like we need to make sure that these things are seamless and that we have products in the warehouse to be able to sell as well.
Well, and that brings up a really good point. If I'm going to talk about something in a social media post or a blog
Mhm,
or some other way,
mhm,
how does that affect? Do I look at that as a promotional event where it's going to increase my demand and
mhm.
therefore increase the draw on the availability and capability and possibly stock out position I'm going to have throughout the supply chain? Or is it not going to have that much impact?
Mhm,
Certain products will be very impacted, certain ones maybe not so much. We
mhm.
need to be able to measure that on an almost item by item, not almost, definitely on an item by item level to see which ones are most impacted and plan accordingly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, one of the other things that this article brings up is the importance of marketing. Influencer marketing is critical, and I know we're talking in a B2C environment, but those consumers are also professionals in a B2B
yeah,
environment as well, and if they get used to, that's how they buy their technology, that's how they buy their products, that's how they buy their apps potentially or in-app purchases and things like that. They're going to transition that into their business life. So, for supply chain organizations that are out there or B2B organizations that are out there right now, something to think about. Influencer marketing is critical. No more fake content. People don't want fake content. They want authenticity. They want to hear from you, right? And they want an easy way to buy from you. Now, let's switch gears and talk a little bit about pricing. I know you've brought this up a few times. It's really your bailiwick and where you really thrive the most and where RELEX thrives as well. So, let's talk about this article. So this is why retailers should invest in pricing technology now. And this is a Q&A with you. And you dive a little bit deeper into this topic, probably a little bit more than we're going to get into today. But one of the first questions that are asked in this article is why is pricing so important? Talk to us about this. Why do people really need to focus on this for 2024?
pricing is first of all the quickest path to value for a retailer.
Hmm.
I mean, if I change prices today, I'm going to affect my key metrics next week. You know, the moment a consumer walks in, sees a new price on the shelf, that decision point becomes active. And I can start really seeing the benefits of the decisions I've made. It's also becoming table stakes, quite honestly. Price optimization and promotion optimization, especially when they're linked back to the supply chain, is just the course of business now.
Hmm.
We need to make sure that our retail partners do make the right decisions with the right data in the right way at the right time. Um, I tend to get very passionate about pricing. It is where my expertise lies. but I've seen retailers really change their whole outlook from going, how do I survive the next quarter, to how do I gain more market share? How do I, I've got these big competitors coming in, folks with Wall in
Mhm.
their name, and, big companies. And how do I take market share from those guys,
Mhm.
but in a way that's profitable and still allows me to build that trust back with the customers that I really want to make sure return to my stores.
Well, and I would assume that they're thinking, profitable, but also sustainable. So sustainable in a couple of different ways. Sustainable from a growth standpoint, right? And probably sustainable from a sustainability standpoint, because everybody also
Mhm.
wants to know about your story and how you're doing less waste and things like that too, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, Relex is all about sustainability. We actually publish several articles a year talking about food waste that we've helped through our programs, whether it be on the supply chain side or the pricing side or any of
Mhm.
our other tools.
Amazing.
It's important, and we take it very seriously.
Yeah, and a lot of people do, right? A lot of people are looking at that company story and they're, wondering what exactly you're doing to help with ESG goals, right? How are you moving that forward? All
Mhm.
right, let's keep the conversation focused on the pricing, and that didn't work for me. So the other question that I wanted to ask you: what should retailers consider when looking at a pricing investment? Like when they're looking at when they're taking a look at what they're doing internally, right? What are some of the questions they should be asking themselves to be like, this is something that I need to focus on, and this is something that's really going to change the game for me in my business?
Let me start by saying Relex has great software. It's
Hmm.
really intuitive, it's really effective. The math behind it is amazing. But in a partner, you want more than that. The solution should be a delivery system for the partnership. We need to work together and find out what works for each retailer. And pricing is a garden that needs constant tending. There is always a new competitor, there's always a new cost issue, there's always a new something, something, something.
Hmm.
You need to have a partner you can rely on to be there long term when the next problem comes up, or the next issue comes up, or the next goal has changed.
Hmm.
The partner should be more than, gee whiz, the software works. That should go without saying. It should
Well,
be,
you would hope so.
you'd like to think, right? Um, I can say Relex software works.
Hmm.
And I'll just leave it at that. But more importantly, we have partners. Um, we don't have people that leave Relex once they join. That's our goal, is to hold on to them, and you don't get that by just providing software. You provide partnership.
Hmm. That can go through also the ebbs and flows. I'm sure with pricing and inflation and costs going up, you don't necessarily want to be reactionary. You want to be proactive. You want to work with somebody that's going to give you the key triggers, that are going to say, "Hey, we need to look at this right now."
Absolutely, it's like that old saying, right? Uh, Act locally, but think globally.
Mhm.
Well, let's act today, but think long-term strategy.
Mhm.
You know, uh, Achieving goals and objectives doesn't happen in an afternoon. Rome wasn't built in a day. But we need to take action today to make those goals happen. So what we need is a plan and a
Mhm.
strategy that gets us from where we are to where we want to be.
Absolutely. Now, one other question I have for you is, you talked about finding the right partner. And in the next article, we're going to be talking about how everybody's kind of overwhelmed with technology. So, what are some of the questions that people should be asking their technology partner to make sure that they are the right fit for them and that the technology partner is the right fit for the customer?
Well, I ask the tough questions. You
Hmm.
know, the easiest one is, how are my needs and goals addressed by this partnership?
Hmm.
And show me that you care enough to actually do a deep needs assessment of what I do for a living, and then show me how the tools and the partnership can achieve that.
Hmm.
Uh, every retailer is a little bit different. There is no cut and paste. Everybody needs to be addressed as their own entity, and we do that. But that's not easy.
Mhm.
It's not simple, and it
Yeah.
requires effort.
Mhm.
A lot of a lot of my competitors won't put in that effort. We do,
Mhm.
because we're very prideful in saying that we have 100% implementation success.
Wow.
100%.
That's a big number.
That doesn't just happen.
Right.
You have to work hard at that.
Mhm.
And we're very proud of it because everyone in the company has contributed to it in some large or small way.
Mhm.
That's what you need to find in a partner. Have you
Mhm.
done this before, and how successful have you been?
Absolutely. All right, let's get to our last article because we've only got a few minutes left. Now, this particular article, I really like this. Now, we talked about trends and retailers at the beginning with our first article. Now, this is talking about actual life trends. And this kind of goes for everybody, retailers, supply chain professionals, professionals in general. And it goes over some of the 5 life trends for 2024 to watch out for. And it goes into really good detail. There's percentages around how people are feeling about certain trends. There's also do's and don'ts. So I would highly recommend that you go and check out this particular article. One of the trends that they talk about is balancing cost and profit without increasing the price to the customer. This is what we've been talking about pretty much this whole entire episode, because 47% of people feel unvalued with unsupported customer service. And so we talked about some of those layoffs in 2023, how they're going to affect customer experience and customer service, how that's going to affect retailers, but also how that's going to affect supply chain. What did you think about this article, Jeff?
Well, first off, let me say that Accenture and RELEX are actually strategic partners as of last year. So this is really important, but I've been using Accenture as a source for trends for years. Their
Mhm.
stuff's just been part of my library going back as far as I can remember. Um, I will say that they nailed it again.
Mhm.
The thought here is, and they call it in section one, where's the love?
Yeah.
It's almost going to be impossible to not raise some prices in 2024. Costs are still going up. Inflation is still a thing, though it's less
Mhm.
of a thing this year than it was last year.
Mhm.
But how do we pick the right prices,
Well, we need to be
the right
informed
time?
about it. Right? Like,
Yes.
how are we informed to make those decisions as to what those prices need to look like, not only for us to cover costs, but then also for the consumer so that they're still going to buy your products?
Well, and then we can even talk about things like promotions. So where do I invest my promotions dollars
Mhm.
in ways that are not only important to the consumer, that rebuilds that trust, rebuilds that bridge
Mhm.
that we've kind of broken, not intentionally, but just the environment forced us to. Let's
Yeah.
gain that back.
Mhm.
But let's stop doing bad promotions that no one cares about, that just cost a ton of money, that really don't affect anything. And by the way, our research has shown that that's about a third of all promotions out there that retailers do are worthless.
Wow.
Consumers don't care about them. They cost the company a ton of money,
Mhm.
and they're not effective. So other than that, they're great. Well, let's
Yeah,
stop
and
that.
those promotions affect what supply chain teams do as well, and the decisions that they're making. And so you can see from all of our conversations today how everything is linked, but how very important pricing is to that whole conversation. It's not something that we talk about all the time, but pricing
Sure.
is kind of that core business component that you really need to focus on as a retailer that's going to affect all of your core business functions. All right, we only have about 30 seconds left, and I have a few things that I want to talk about. So, RELEX is going to be at NRF 2024. So, if you're going to be there, make sure to go and check them out, visit them at their booth, go and say hi. They've got a lot of fun things that are happening at NRF. So, hopefully, they'll see you there. Plus, I am going to be at Manifest in February. I don't know if you guys saw my post yesterday, but I'm going to be there in Vegas February 5th through 7th. And if you're going to be there, make sure to come and say hi. And that's pretty much it from us today. Jeff, any really quick last thoughts?
See you at NRF.
All right. I love it. Thanks everybody for joining us. Jeff, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much.